Mexico's most powerful drug lord is dead. On February 22, 2026, Mexican special forces stormed a mountain compound in Tapalpa, Jalisco, and Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, was shot, wounded, and died in transit to Mexico City. Within minutes, 20 of Mexico's 32 states erupted in violence, and the world is holding its breath, waiting to see what comes next. Over 250 roadblocks went up across Mexico within hours of the operation. Burning trucks sealed off highways in Jalisco, Michoacán, Guerrero, Tamaulipas, and Veracruz. 25 members of Mexico's National Guard were killed in 6 separate coordinated attacks in Jalisco alone. The U.S. Embassy issued a shelter-in-place alert for American citizens across 12 Mexican states. Airlines Air Canada, Southwest, Delta, Alaska canceled all flights into Puerto Vallarta and Guadalajara. More than 70 people are dead. And as of right now, 23 prison escapees from the CJNG facility in Puerto Vallarta are still unaccounted for. This wasn't chaos, this was a message. Before we break down exactly what happened and why this changes everything for Mexico, the United States, and the 2026 World Cup, make sure you subscribe to Angel News. We're giving you the real analysis nobody else will touch. Share this with everyone you know, because a power vacuum has just opened inside the most dangerous cartel in the Western Hemisphere, and nobody has filled it yet. On February 20th, 2026, military intelligence made a critical break in the case. A trusted associate of El Mencho's romantic partner was tracked by the U.S. Joint Interagency Task Force, counter-cartel known as JITC-CC, to a secluded rural property in the mountains of Tapalpa, Jalisco, approximately 130 kilometers south of Guadalajara. That same day, Brigadier General Mauricio Calabresi confirmed his forces had eyes on the compound. 2 days later, on February 22nd, Mexican Special Forces initiated the raid at dawn. El Mencho was cornered. He ran. He and 2 bodyguards fled into the surrounding forest as Mexican troops advanced. They were caught in a second firefight in the tree line. All 3 were wounded. A military helicopter providing aerial cover took gunfire and made an emergency landing in nearby Sayula. El Mencho was loaded onto a second helicopter. He never made it to Mexico City alive. His age, 59. His bounty, $15 million offered by the United States DEA. His cartel's annual fentanyl output, enough to kill every American alive. Think about what it took to find this man. El Mencho evaded the Mexican government, the DEA, Interpol, and every intelligence apparatus on the planet for over a decade. He wasn't caught because of a tip or a raid. He was found because of a woman. Military intelligence tracked a romantic partner, and that thread unraveled one of the most fortified criminal networks in the world. Think about what that means for every cartel leader still breathing tonight. Nobody is untouchable anymore. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel's response was immediate and coordinated. Within 2 hours of the operation, cartel operatives activated a nationwide contingency plan. Over 250 roadblocks went up across 20 states. Burning buses, overturned trucks, and flaming barricades sealing Mexico's arterial highways. This was not random grief. Security analyst Edgar Guerra called it a form of strategic communication. The CJNG was telling every government, every rival cartel, and every civilian in Mexico, we are still here, and we are still capable. In Jalisco alone, 6 simultaneous attacks targeted National Guard units. 25 soldiers were killed in those attacks. An additional cartel commander, identified by Mexico's Defense Secretary Ricardo Trevilla as coordinating the violence, was offering more than $1,000 for every soldier killed that day. Mexico deployed 10,000 troops across 20 states within 24 hours. The CJNG responded by attacking a regional prison, the Centro Integral de Justicia Regional in Ixtapa, Puerto Vallarta, using heavy firearms to breach the facility and freed 23 inmates who remain at large as of today, February 24th. Mexico then announced an additional 2,500 Army personnel specifically for Jalisco. The CJNG responded with new highway blockades on Tuesday. For every Mexican military move, the cartel has a counter. and this game of escalation is not over. Share this with everyone you know because U.S. citizens across 12 Mexican states are still under shelter-in-place advisories, and the governments of the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia have all issued active travel warnings for Mexico right now. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. El Mencho's son, his natural successor, is already in a U.S. federal prison. Ruben Oseguera Gonzalez, known as El Menchito, was extradited and convicted years ago. That means the CJNG's succession line is broken. There is no designated heir. David Mora, an expert at the International Crisis Group, said this creates what he called a power vacuum that opens the door to violent realignments within the organization. Translation: the most violent cartel in the Western Hemisphere is now in a leadership crisis, and rival organizations, including the Sinaloa cartel, are watching and waiting. This operation did not happen in isolation. U.S. President Donald Trump has spent months threatening Mexico with additional tariffs and, in statements that alarmed both governments, the possibility of unilateral U.S. military action against the cartels. President Claudia Sheinbaum has repeatedly rejected any U.S. military presence on Mexican soil, stating there was no participation in the operation by U.S. forces. But the JITCCC was involved. U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau confirmed the intelligence support and called El Mencho one of the bloodiest and most ruthless drug kingpins in history. Mexico is hoping this killing buys political capital with Washington. The question is whether Trump will see it that way. Think about what President Sheinbaum is managing right now. On one side, she has 10,000 soldiers deployed, a destabilized cartel, and a country in mourning for 25 National Guard members who died protecting those same highways. On the other side, she has a U.S. president demanding more action, more cooperation, while she insists Mexican sovereignty is non-negotiable. One wrong move, too much credit given to Washington, or too little action on the ground, and this political capital evaporates. The operation was a military success. Whether it becomes a strategic one is still being decided. Here is what nobody is saying loudly enough. Guadalajara, the capital of Jalisco, the CJNG's home state, the city that was completely shut down on February 22nd, is a 2026 FIFA World Cup host city. Matches are scheduled there beginning this summer. Right now, burned-out vehicles are still on the waterfront of Puerto Vallarta. A dead man was found next to a bullet-riddled car in the streets of Tapalpa on Monday, and 23 escaped prisoners are still unaccounted for. The world's biggest sporting event is scheduled to take place 130 kilometers from where El Mencho was killed 48 hours ago. When troops raided the Tapalpa compound, they didn't just find weapons, they found rocket launchers. Rocket launchers capable of downing aircraft and destroying armored vehicles. Think about that. This cartel had anti-air and anti-armor capability at a rural safe house. The Mexican military has 10,000 troops deployed. The CJNG has an estimated 20,000 to 30,000 members across Mexico, with cells in the United States, Europe, and Southeast Asia. Eliminating the head does not eliminate the body. Think about what the CJNG actually represents. This is not a regional gang. This is the world's largest fentanyl trafficking organization. Every kilogram of fentanyl that crosses into the United States and kills 70,000 Americans a year runs through networks this cartel built. El Mencho is dead, but his infrastructure, his labs, his shipping routes, his corrupted officials, and his 20,000 fighters are all still operational. The question is not whether the CJNG survives. The question is whether it fractures into something even harder to contain. On February 22, 2026, Mexican Special Forces killed El Mencho, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, in a raid on his compound in Tapalpa, Jalisco. Over 70 people died in the operation and its aftermath. 25 National Guard members were killed in coordinated cartel attacks. Over 250 roadblocks shut down highways across 20 states. The U.S. Embassy ordered American citizens to shelter in place in 12 states. Airlines canceled all flights into Guadalajara and Puerto Vallarta. 23 prisoners broken out of a Jalisco facility remain at large. 10,000 Mexican troops are deployed, but new blockades emerged again on Tuesday. The CJNG has no clear successor. A power vacuum now exists inside the most violent cartel in the hemisphere. And Guadalajara, ground zero, is a FIFA World Cup host city. The situation is still developing. Whether the CJNG fractures into warring factions, triggering a new wave of cartel violence across Mexico, or consolidates under a new unknown leader and retaliates with even greater force, will determine what Mexico looks like for the next decade. Two paths. One power vacuum, and the next 72 hours will expose which cartel is already moving to fill it. Mexico's government says the country is calm, but 23 armed prisoners are still free in Jalisco, new roadblocks are going up tonight, and a $15 million man's organization is now headless and unpredictable. This story is not over. Stay tuned.